Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Chall, and today Chall Chats from League One. We have some breaking news coming out from Oakwell this afternoon. Barnsley Football Club have parted company with their head coach Neill Collins. Just one game before the end of the season. Of course, Barnsley sit in the playoffs by just a point and are one of four teams in for two playoff places for the final day of the third tier season. Now, before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers and 500,000 views. Let's get there as soon as possible, please. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into everything we know about this situation. So we're going to start off with the club's official statement. We're also going to have a look into Barnsley's recent form, take a look at the final day of League One in those four particular matches involving Barnsley, as well as the other three promotion playoff candidates in those two positions, Lincoln City, Oxford United and Blackpool. We're also going to take a look at a few potential options as to who could come in as the club's next manager next season, no matter what the situation is with the playoffs. So let's start off with that all-important club statement, and here is what Barnsley have said on the matter. Barnsley Football Club have confirmed the departure of head coach Neill Collins. Now, the official club have said that Collins was appointed last summer, and despite several positive spells throughout the season, recent results have left the board of directors feeling that a change is needed. Director of Football, Maiden Samaz, said Neill has been extremely professional throughout the period with which I have worked with him. He's done everything he can to do to push the team in the direction we all want Barnsley to go. He has conducted himself with professionalism and commitment throughout the period I have worked with him. However, with a crucial season conclusion ahead of us, we feel that now is the right time to make a change. We thank the fans for their continued support and urge to back the team this Saturday against Northampton. We will update supporters in the coming days. And they've also just announced that Martin Devaney will step up once again as caretaker during that final game of the season. So that was the official statement on the website for Barnsley Football Club. Now let's talk about exactly what is going to go down for the last day of the season. Now, Barnsley have Northampton Town. Now, we know that Lincoln host champions Portsmouth. We know that Oxford go away to Exeter City and Blackpool go away to Reading. Now, for me, it's going to be an interesting one that final day, especially with the caretaker manager in charge of the Tykes, because Barnsley right now are in a vulnerable position. They're in a very vulnerable position. And I'll tell you why they're in a vulnerable position. Going into that parting of the company with Neill Collins, 4 defeats in the last 5. It's not playoff form. It's 100% not playoff form. And Barnsley now are in real danger of losing their spot. It was pretty much nailed on, I'd say, a few weeks ago. I'd say about a month or two ago, it was near enough nailed on that Barnsley were probably going to finish in the playoffs. But the run of form has really dipped, and 4 defeats out of the last 5 is just not good enough. Now, the first part of the thumbnail on obviously when you clicked on the video, one of the questions of the two at the side was the timing right here? And I see the reaction from Barnsley fans, and I see the support of the decision, and even some fans going to the extent of 10 games too late. Now, for me, is this the right time? Do you give him the last day of the season and whatever happens, happens? If you make the playoffs, great. If you don't, you then get rid of him at the end of the season and you start fresh. With only one game left, is it right to just get rid of a manager with one game left, or you might as well just play that game out? I personally felt like you should have just played that game out. Win, lose, or draw, I think Barnsley wouldn't have gone up anyway. I don't think this was Barnsley's year this year. I think that Barnsley's year might be next year, depending who they appoint next. But for me, I just feel like it was one of those where they didn't, in my opinion, need to make the change. I feel like for me, you should have just seen that game out against Northampton. I feel like the timing of it was strange. If you were going to get rid of him, you'd have probably got rid of him, sooner. I think if it had happened 1-2 weeks ago, then maybe it'd be more understandable. But I think with only one game left of the season, with potentially the playoff games as well, I just think there's too much pressure on Barnsley's squad. I think with even though Devaney's going to step up as caretaker, I think that with the manager gone, the players are going to switch off mentally. They might not do, but when you're in that, when you're a player in that mindset of your manager's gone, you've got one game left of the season, and you're in a bit of a slump. It's not exactly looking like you're going to be in the best frame of mind, are you? As a player, you've got to be mentally really prepared at this moment, because if you're sat in a dressing room who's just lost your manager with one game of the season to go, and you're clinging onto your playoff spot by a point with three other teams chasing up you, including someone who's off your tail, a point behind you in seventh, you'll be looking at that thinking, well, hang on a second here. you know, it's you just got to think about it. Sixth, sorry, not seventh. You got to think about it because Barnsley right now are going to be one of the weaker sides form-wise going into those playoffs. You've got Peterborough, you've got probably Bolton, you've got potentially Barnsley, but you're going to have 2 out of 4 out of Barnsley, Lincoln, Oxford, and Blackpool joining Peterborough and Bolton. To be honest with you, I wouldn't exactly rule out Bolton or Lincoln winning the playoffs at the minute. I think Peterborough, don't get me wrong, they've got some wonderful talent, and I'm sure they'll make a lot of profit in the summer from some of the players that they could sell on in the summer. For me, though, I think with Peterborough, I think they is next year. For me, it's going to be one of those kind of comeback scenarios again, kind of like Sheffield Wednesday last season. For me, I feel like it's going to be one of them situations again where they just miss out on the final or they lose in the final. For me, though, I've got to give it to either Bolton or Lincoln. I think Bolton have been amazing this season. I think Lincoln's form at the minute's been absolutely unstoppable. They've just been a brilliant team to watch. And I wouldn't bank on, I wouldn't want to play Bolton or Lincoln. I think those two would be the favourites going into the final. I think that Bolton or Lincoln will be the ones going up for me in the playoffs. It'll be Portsmouth, Derby, and Bolton, or Portsmouth, Derby, and Lincoln. For me, anyway. I don't think it's Peterborough's year. I don't think it's Barnsley's year. And I do have serious fears for Barnsley of actually dropping out of the playoffs altogether. I really do. Because, again, let's look back at those 4 games that's coming up on the last day of the season for League One. Lincoln hosting champions Portsmouth. Portsmouth are already champions. They're going to go for it, obviously, but Lincoln have a lot more to lose. So Lincoln will go for it. And I generally think Lincoln end up getting at least a draw out of that game, maybe even a win. Reading host Blackpool. Reading is safe. Blackpool need the win to try and even stand a chance of playoffs. Of course, they faced Lincoln in the final, only a couple of years ago. So for me, anyway, I think for me, it's again, it's one of them where I think Blackpool will be up for it. I reckon Blackpool will probably win that game, but again, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we've got Exeter hosting Oxford United. Again, Exeter, mid-table, just survived. They're not going to go anywhere else this season, so they're going to be ready for next season. Of course, a couple of their players departing, Alex Hartridge. Obviously, we know that the manager will stay probably. So, Exeter's sort of getting ready for next season and planning for next season already, so they're going to be technically on the beach. Oxford could get a win out of that game. Exeter will be up for it to try and give the home fans a last-minute send-off. But I think that Oxford, for me, could be the strongest side. So if you take that into account, I think Oxford will win. I think Blackpool will win. I think Lincoln could get at least a draw. It's not looking good for Barnsley. It really, really isn't. I mean, they've got Northampton Town, and Northampton have just missed out on the playoffs this year, but they're in the top half. And you know what? Fair play to them. And Northampton, for me, are a really good team managed by John Brady. And they're building a really strong Northampton side. And I think another summer, they could seriously be underdog for the playoffs next year. I really do think that. And I think John Brady gets my almighty's respect. I just think with the position of a caretaker manager, and that's nothing against Martin Devaney, I think with the one game he'll want to fire the players up, he'll want to get them involved and just say to the if I was Devaney, I'd be saying to these group of players, hey, your manager might be gone, but your season's definitely not over. Get over the line, get the win, get the 3 points, and go into them playoffs with your head held high and try your absolute best. Because if you don't, you're going to fall short. And I could see Barnsley losing their playoff place. I really, really could. And would you blame Barnsley if they lost their playoff place? Probably, because 4 defeats in the last 5 not good enough, and that's maybe probably the main reason why Neill Collins got the sack, got to part company with Barnsley. So it's going to be one of those situations. Now, what about who's next? We know we're not going to see an appointment until the summer. We know that. But who is next for Barnsley? Who is next? Well, there's 2 names that are former Barnsley managers that I could see maybe coming back. Paul Heckingbottom, Michael Duff. Now, Michael Duff, to some Barnsley fans, could be seen as the ex, like the jilted ex. It's like Nathan Jones coming back to Luton a second time. It's like the jilted ex coming back and, building bridges, that kind of thing, and really connecting with the fans again. Because the Barnsley fans understood the move to Swansea, but they didn't. Obviously, in their heart of hearts, it would have left a really sour taste in Barnsley mouths when he left for the Swansea job. And for me, Michael Duff needs to go back to Barnsley, back to where he was comfortable after the Cheltenham Town spell as manager. And I feel like Michael Duff needs to go back to Barnsley and just get his head straight, get back in that mentality of, I'm going to take Barnsley back to the Championship and I'm going to do it with them. So I think Michael Duff would be a great appointment. I also think that Paul Heckingbottom would be a brilliant appointment. I know it didn't exactly work out at Sheffield United in the Premier League, but I'll tell you something now. No disrespect to Sheffield United Football Club, but with the squad they have in the Premier League compared to everyone else's, barring maybe a couple of teams, I really didn't think Sheffield United had a chance anyway. So it was all about not getting embarrassed. And unfortunately, that's just exactly what happened on numerous times this season. I don't think United fans would probably complain about that or disagree with that. So Heckingbottom for me, again, would be great for Barnsley. I think it'd be a huge coup, obviously, compared to where he came from with the Premier League recently. When you look at other managers out there, those that have won stuff, those that are available maybe, I think that one particular name that springs to mind who I think deserves the step up, and again, this is no disrespect to the club he's at, but I think Pete Wild at Barrow would be an excellent shout for Barnsley. I think that when we talk about South Yorkshire clubs, he's someone that I wanted when we sat Richie Wellens at Donny. And he was also someone that I thought we should have had when he was at Halifax as well, when he was Halifax town manager. Pete Well would be a wonderful appointment. I also think that Stockport's winning manager Dave Challoner would be a wonderful appointment as well. Have Barnsley got the money to pay the compensation to the likes of Barrow and Stockport? I personally think they could do. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens there. Obviously Heckingbottom and Duff are the ones that are out of work. Challoner and Wild are top managers in the league below. There's some really good shouts down there. Don't take Grant McCann. Do not take Grant McCann. But in all seriousness, yeah, there's some great names out there. Comment down below what you think, guys. Obviously, we know that there's been former names in the bookies before on previous times when they were looking for a new manager. In fact, when they sacked Michael Duff the first time round, I know 2 names that were in the bookies were Darren Moore and Chris Wilder, and people will say, oh, I'll take them any day of the week. Chris Wilder's staying with Sheffield United. I think we probably know that. Darren Moore's getting backed by Port Vale despite their relegation to League Two. So we know he's staying at Port Vale next season anyway, obviously, depending if anything else comes up next season at some point. But there is some great managers out there. I'm sure Barnsley aren't short for options. If it was up to me, even though it was a bitter pill to swallow when he left, I would just bite the bullet and go for Michael Duff. You need someone who's known the club, been around the club, and someone who can get the fans up again, get that team built right, and someone who can give game time to some pretty wonderful talent. Barnes has got some wonderful academy lads coming up. You've got Fabio Giallo, who, in my opinion, needs more of a prominent role next season at Barnsley. I think he's incredible to watch as a young player. If you're going to loan him out, loan him to us. We'll take care of him. But in all seriousness, Giallo is an incredible talent. But yeah, Barnsley need to bite the bullet and go for Michael Duff. If you were looking at a manager who hasn't been a manager at Barnsley before, no disrespect to Barrow, but I would just pay anything it takes to get Pete Wild. I genuinely believe that Pete Wild would do wonderful at Barnsley. I think that he would build a really good possession-based, physical, attacking side, use the channels well, utilise the midfield battle, create it to their advantage, take on the counter press. It'd be a really entertaining side to watch, and I really feel like he would be a wonderful option. Another great manager option is Brian Barry Murphy. I feel like his attacking football would be perfect for Barnsley. So Wild, Barry Murphy, and Michael Duff are my top 3 choices. What do you think Who do you think would be the top 3 choices? Comment down below your thoughts, Barnsley fans. And for now, I am the CHALL. Ta-ra for now. That's full time.